This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Maribel Tarouk. In less than an hour, big changes will come into effect for people living in this province. Most stem from the Ontario PC government and changes it's announced since coming into power last June. Our Farah Morali breaks it all down for you tonight.
April 1st is going to look a lot different than March 31st for people in Ontario. Everything from prescription drug coverage to how much money your child receives for autism treatment is changing. Here's what you need to know. Let's start with gas prices. Get ready for some sticker shock at the pumps. The federal carbon tax kicks in April 1st. Because Ontario doesn't have its own carbon pricing system, the feds are bringing in its own charge.
Tomorrow, the price of gas in Ontario will go up by 5 cents a litre.
Federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer and the Ontario PC government have both vowed to fight the carbon tax. But that doesn't change the fact that you will be paying more to fill up your tank starting tomorrow. The next big change is coming to prescription drugs. That's because of Ontario's new pharmacare program. Right now, people under 25 get free prescriptions for 4,400 different types of drugs. That's now ending.
I think that makes the best use of resources.
Those under 25 with private health benefits won't be eligible for those free prescriptions, but those without would still be covered. Then there's changes to the autism program funding.
The last month has been incredibly emotional for many families who have children with autism, and I understand that.
The Ford government is bringing in direct funding for families starting April 1st, but with a cap depending on how old your child is.
All kids deserve better.
The changes have sparked outrage from many parents who say they'll leave kids without access to the treatment they need. Also starting April 1st, the opening of legal marijuana storefronts in Ontario.
It's a relief. It sucks ordering it online.
People already started lining up today outside the Honey Pot in Toronto, which will be the city's first provincially licensed storefront. And finally, you can officially say farewell to Drive Clean. Drivers with vehicles older than 7 years no longer have to get emissions testing every 2 years in Ontario. That's scrapped as of April 1st. Some of the changes you won't see but are coming into effect have to do with watchdog positions. The province will no longer have an environmental commissioner or an Ontario child advocate. Those positions will be eliminated as of tomorrow, and the duties will be rolled into other offices. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, as Farah mentioned, doors to Ontario's first legal pot shops will open tomorrow, and there is already something of a line.
Brought some puzzles, a lot of water, gotta stay hydrated, and I bought my positivity and my heart so I could always have something to go on.
Marie Camara is camping out in front of the Honey Pot on Queen Street. She wants to make history as their very first customer. The store is one of about 10 shops approved by the province to open tomorrow. Superette in Ottawa is another pot shop slated to start selling tomorrow. But in the race to get the doors open, residents are trying to make sure their concerns aren't trampled on.
Concerns that residents brought to us were related to traffic, so just concerns about congestion. It's already a very busy area.
Crowd and line control. This is commercial traffic and it should remain on a commercial street. The other issues about traffic?
These issues were brought up at an open house this weekend. Superette co-founder Drummond Monroe was also there.
We're going to go above and beyond to make sure that all lineup concerns, crowd control, we'll have additional signage for people, and we'll have bylaw enforcement as well as additional security day one.
The store is on the residential Wellington Street in Ottawa. The athletes, undeniably resilient. The business, not so much. Details on what is behind the bombshell decision to shut down the Canadian Women's Hockey League coming up. Oh, a snowy end to March. Toronto and the GTA were blanketed under a thin layer of spring snow today. Hopefully, the last we will see of it for a while. And Daksha Rangan is here with those important details we all want to know. Daksha.
Okay, well, many across southern Ontario were asking that question. Is this the last shot of snow that we're going to be seeing this season? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but in case you didn't know, the month of April for the city of Toronto, we usually see around 4.5 centimeters of snow on average. So I can't quite promise that we are in the clear. In fact, late week, we are actually talking about the potential for another mixing event. It might be quite brief in nature, so there's your silver lining. Let's just take a quick look at what we saw, though, this weekend. So you'll notice as we head further north into the fringes, the northern fringes of the GTA, vary at around 10 centimeters, and then up toward Cottage Country, Haliburton 19 centimeters, and Pembroke at 23 centimeters of snow. So many were probably not so happy to be seeing that on Sunday morning. The good news is into Monday, fairly quiet. Here's a look at what our temperatures will be like, though, Monday morning. -5, feeling like -11. So we are going to be seeing some of the coldest air in the upper levels of the atmosphere over us, and that's why things will be quite frosty to start off the week. During the morning hours, you're certainly going to want to bundle up. In fact, Monday and Tuesday, our daytime highs are actually going to be barely above that freezing mark. So keep that in mind. The good news, though, is that we are not quite talking about snow for the start of the work week, at least not yet.
Thanks, Daksha. A 63-year-old man is dead and 5 others have been injured after several vehicles crashed on Highway 403 in Mississauga early this morning. Emergency crews rushed to Highway 403 just west of Winston Churchill Boulevard around 6 a.m. in snowy and rainy conditions. Paramedics pronounced Kumara Sami Gunaratnam dead at the scene. 5 others were taken to hospital. Debris was strewn across the highway after the crash. It remained closed for several hours, but has since fully reopened. Police are continuing to investigate what led to the crash. The OPP have now charged the driver of the transport truck carrying cattle overnight yesterday after a crash left more than a dozen cows roaming on Highway 401 in Mississauga. The 36-year-old man faces 1 count of careless driving. Police say 12 cows died as a result of the crash. One person is fighting for their life tonight after a Via Rail train from Windsor to Toronto collided with a vehicle. It happened around 2:30 this afternoon on the Kyle Road crossing in Chatham, Kent. The Transportation Safety Board says none of the passengers on the train was hurt. Trains between Windsor and London, plus the ones operating between London and Toronto, were experiencing some delays. More than 100 people came out to Brampton City Hall today to remember the family of 6 who died in that Ethiopian Airlines crash 3 weeks ago.
I don't know how I'm gonna cope. Just think about, like, if you've got a roof and the roof goes away, what is gonna happen? So that is currently my state, but I'm hoping that, like, with all of the prayers from the community, that is gonna help me grieve.
Veja's parents, sister, brother-in-law, and 2 nieces were killed in the crash. They were among 18 Canadians killed.
I'm very grateful for all the support that our family is getting, and I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of people who want to support us. Now that they're gone, it's really heartbreaking to know that we can't ever see them again, but I know that they're in a better place now, and that's nice to know.
Friends and family members took turns sharing memories. Brampton City officials, including Mayor Patrick Brown, also paid their respects. The emotional ceremony included prayers to the family. The last of more than 100 cats recently found in a Toronto home were moved to animal shelters and foster homes today. A crew from the Etobicoke Humane Society was at the residence on Saturday to round up 41 cats that remained inside. Current bylaws allow people to keep no more than 6 cats in a home. The woman who lives at the home is cooperating with the Humane Society. No charges are being laid. If you're hopping on the TTC in the morning, heads up, fares are going up as of Monday. Adult cash fares stay at $3.25, but senior and student prices jump to $2.20 from $2.10. Adult tokens and tickets are now $3.10, and a trip for an adult using a Presto card is also now $3.10. Monthly Presto passes are also going up. The regular pass will now be $151.15. And senior, student, and post-secondary monthly passes will cost you $122.45. Immigration continues to be a hot-button issue in the United States. Today, Donald Trump reinforced his threat to close down the U.S.-Mexico border. We'll have the latest from El Paso, Texas, after the break. Tonight, Donald Trump is doubling down on his vow to close the U.S.-Mexico border. And there's been a surge of arrests along there in recent months, an estimated 100,000 in March alone. Kim Brunhuber reports from one city along that border, El Paso, Texas.
One might think these youths were on a school trip if it weren't for the Border Patrol trucks flanking them. Their destination was less than 100 meters away, but we weren't allowed to film it.
So you guys have to get out of here, this is a construction zone. You guys have to move.
It was clear where they were headed, an outdoor holding facility under a bridge. Last week, the media was allowed to photograph the migrants, held behind fences and razor wire under the bridge that leads from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico to El Paso, Texas.
Thank you for being here for an update on what we're seeing here at the border.
The migrants were the backdrop of a press conference by the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection.
CBP is facing an unprecedented humanitarian and border security crisis all along our southwest border, and nowhere has that crisis manifested more acutely than here in El Paso.
Border Patrol agents, he said, are apprehending about 570 migrants a day in El Paso, up from about 100 a day 5 months ago. This, he said, reflects a national surge this spring, which will see the highest number of apprehensions in over a decade. That's why here in El Paso, migrants were being kept in the outdoor facility for a day or two before most were released in what officials said was a temporary measure until a $192 million processing facility is built.
By no means that's a sanitary condition to keep children.
Some activists, like Fernando Garcia, said the influx was no excuse for keeping the migrants in what looked like a concentration camp.
It is very appalling, the fact that they are using those images to present a situation of a crisis.
Those who are just 3 or 4 blocks from here, detained under the international bridge.
Yesterday, Democrat Beto O'Rourke launched his presidential campaign from his hometown. Well, within booing distance, dozens of Donald Trump supporters held their own rally. Many here had little sympathy for the migrants held under the bridge.
That's their fault. They came here to try and find something, right? But they're risking their lives and they're risking their children's lives.
Our services are drained.
The executive director of El Paso's Republican Party acknowledges what was happening in his city was the symbol of a broken immigration system. But he says, don't blame President Trump.
You have so many people in our government, the Democrat Party, that is telling them, oh yes, we're going to take care of you. Yes, we're going to keep providing for you. You get all these goodies. Just come on over and we're going to keep protecting you. We have to tell them no.
Then today, with no notice, the outdoor holding facility was abruptly shut down, the crisis seemingly over as suddenly as it appeared. Border Patrol say the migrants were moved to other facilities. The only remaining sign of their presence, a few mylar blankets they slept on, flapping on the razor wire like shiny flags. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, El Paso, Texas.
The Canadian Women's Hockey League is folding after 12 seasons. It was formed by a group of players, athletes who had been abandoned when a previous women's league folded. As Greg Ross reports, the CWHL acknowledges the hockey is excellent, but says the business model doesn't work.
I'm sad, devastated, angry, all at the same time.
Carly Campbell is one of 130 players in the Canadian Women's Hockey League who learned their fate via conference call this morning.
It's kind of a shock, to be honest. It's not something that we saw coming.
The Calgary Inferno are your Clarkson Cup champions.
Just days after the league celebrated its most watched championship game and a season where attendance and revenues were up, the CWHL says it still wasn't enough.
I think we realize that under this model, we can't advance the women's game to the degree that it deserves.
What is the model and why isn't it working?
I don't think we have an answer to that. I would love to be able to say that if you did the following 5 things, this model would work.
The news traveled quickly through the hockey world. These teenagers in Toronto had questions of their own.
It doesn't give an equal opportunity for us, especially because this is an entire league full of girls and that they're trying to aspire to be that, and now we don't have the chance to be.
The CWHL is one of 2 women's professional hockey leagues operating in North America. The other is the NWHL, based in the U.S. Officials from that league also seemed caught off guard. They had been in discussions with the CWHL to form one league.
It makes sense to have all the best players playing against each other, for sure.
Toronto Fury's general manager Sammy Joe Small says players would likely welcome a merger between the 2 leagues in the future, but in the meantime, players and staff are already considering other options for next season.
I think we can create an interim league. The hardest thing about creating a league is getting ice time. All that ice time has been booked moving forward, so we do have those ice times. We have GMs in place. We have teams and staff in place.
Yes, the league, the name CWHL is gone, but we're still an entire community of players, GM, staff that are holding together, and we are being optimistic about this whole thing.
Players earned between $2,000 and $10,000 in the CWHL. Campbell says players may have to consider playing for free. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, Canada's best and brightest in TV and film were honored tonight at the Canadian Screen Awards Gala. And CBC's Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has some of the highlights.
The achievements of Canadian women and the achievements of Canadian comedy were highlighted during the lively Canadian Screen Awards Gala. But the biggest winners of this entire awards week were actually the dramas. CBC's Anne with an E and CTV's Cardinal won 7 awards each. That's during this entire week, which is a whole lot. On the comedy side, Schitt's Creek also won quite a few, including 2 tonight for Best Comedy and Best Performance by an Actress in a Comedy for Catherine O'Hara. And there were also some really emotional speeches during the special awards, including the Radius Award, the inaugural Radius Award, which went to Scarborough's own Stephan James. He's now a big star in Hollywood with movies like If Beale Street Could Talk, but he definitely did not forget where he came from and dedicated his award to inspiring other young black men.
Finally, I want to dedicate this award to young black boys and girls across this country. Perhaps you are watching this now. I want to tell you that your craziest dreams, your wildest imaginations are all possible, no matter where you are, no matter where you come from. Scarborough to the world.
So overall, it was a very uplifting and inspiring show, and it really showed the evolution of Canadian film and television industry, all the way from SCTV and Kids in the Hall to young stars like Stephan James. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The Toronto Argonauts held their annual cheerleader tryouts today. But this year, the lineup for those who came to audition was different than years past. For the first time, men were included in the tryouts. Nicole Martin has more on why the cheer squad is embracing the change.
There are no male dancers on any cheerleading team in the Canadian Football League, but that's about to change. Traditionally, CFL teams have fielded female-only cheerleading squads, with male stunters typically serving the purpose of springboard for high-flying women in short, glittery skirts. But today, for the first time ever, the Toronto Argonauts hosted its dance team auditions for both male and female dancers.
I believe by bringing males to the team, it'll bring in a different dynamic, different flavor, and it'll take away from the cheerleading aspect just for guys to enjoy. It'll be for everyone to enjoy.
It's bringing this exciting new entertainment element. You know, when you bring guys into the mix, you can do so much more tricks, acrobatics. You can do kind of partner work and lifts and that kind of thing. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of change, but it'll be exciting.
Amberly Caroli, who manages the Argos cheer squad, said the team will have men on both its dance and cheer squads this year. How is that going to change the dynamic of the cheer team?
I think it'll still be the same. Like, we'll still be cheering. The girls will still have poms. The guys will not be using poms. I know that's a popular question. But yeah, so the dynamics is different, men and women wise, but I think it'll still bring the same energy and be hype for the crowd.
So what does this new direction mean for fans and for the business in general?
Well, ultimately, you know, our goal is to bring an amazing show and to have that everyone who comes out to an Argonauts game, that they're having a great time and enjoying what we put out there. And so, you know, we just want to bring new, exciting elements. We want to be, you know, we want our team to reflect the amazing, you know, diversity of Toronto.
Now, Caroli says this new direction is not about increasing ticket sales, but about enhancing the fan experience. The Argos home opener kicks off June 22nd against the Hamilton Tiger Cats right here at BMO Field. Nicole Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, that snow we got today was an unwelcome sight for some. And Daksha, some areas were hit harder than others.
Okay, I just want to start off with a recap of the snow that we did see this weekend, Saturday and through early Sunday. You'll notice as we venture further to the north, heavier snowfall totals between 20 to closer to 25 centimeters, and right along the northern shores of Lake Ontario, mostly a rainfall event. Nonetheless, many were not so pleased to be waking up to snow, although I personally did find it quite beautiful. Many are really ready to put the snow behind us, but let me tell you what you can expect as you get into the start of the work week. There is the potential for a wee bit of snow late week. I'll break that down for you in a minute. I do want to show you this strong northwesterly flow as we head into Monday, because we will be seeing some pretty frosty temperatures to start off the week, especially during the early morning hours. If you're commuting, whether via public transit or maybe you're just hopping in your car, be sure to bundle up, because we'll be seeing feels like values well into the minus single digits and even into the minus double digits, so feeling like minus 10 for parts of the Greater Toronto area. And you'll notice that by the afternoon and evening hours as well on Monday, daytime highs really struggling to get above the freezing mark. Toronto Monday afternoon 4 degrees, but feeling like 0. The silver lining with this is that it's going to be a fairly dry start to the week for many. So good news, if you didn't want the snow or the rain, it will be cold, but generally quite dry for us Monday in through Tuesday. Things will be changing as we head into mid to late week, but I do want to show you that we will have some high pressure at play. So as we head into Wednesday, a really nice surge of some southerly flow, that's going to usher in some pretty gorgeous temperatures. Let's take a look at your 7-day forecast here for the city of Toronto. Wednesday hitting 11. Things do drop into Thursday. There's our chance for some mixing, potentially transitioning over to rain, and then beautiful temperatures for the weekend.
Okay, how much banana bread is too much banana bread? 6 inches, maybe a foot? How about a 22-foot long super cake? This may just be the longest banana cake in the West, or at least in southwestern Ontario. It was unveiled today at London's Trinity United Church. It took 300 eggs, 50 kilograms of flour, 40 kilograms of bananas, and a total of 3 months. It was a work of art, literally. An exhibit designed as a partnership between the Macintosh Gallery at Western University and 30 to 50 local industrial baking facility workers, all of them immigrants. Good job. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everyone.